We've got over 200 hydrangeas in our garden.
Today we're sharing our top picks here in Zone 6, upstate New York.
Welcome to our garden here in upstate New York, Zone 6. We are thrilled to be sharing our top picks of hydrangeas with you today. And right now we are standing in our hydrangea room. We wanted to go through the garden and show you some of the hydrangeas that are looking fantastic. Christopher told me earlier an interesting fact. He said there are over 50 varieties of hydrangeas that grow throughout the world. Is that right, Christopher?
That is correct.
But only 6 traditionally are grown here in the United States, and we've got 5 of them, and all 5 of them are in flowers. So we want to show you our top picks, and we're going to start right here with this Invincibelle Spirit II hydrangea. This is a smoothleaf hydrangea or an arborescens type hydrangea that has been bred to bloom pink. It gets about 4 to 5 feet tall and wide. It blooms on new wood, and that's great for gardeners up here in a colder zone like Zone 6, because that means that even if we get a late frost or deer come through, it's always going to flower for us because it blooms on this year's growth. The improved version of Invincibelle Spirit is Invincibelle Spirit II, and it's improved because instead of the flowers fading to brown, they'll fade to like a nice, soft, gentle green as the season progresses. I really like this one. It's a top pick for us for sure. It handles a lot of sun as well. I would say this gets full sun because it's still sunny from the morning until now, and it's about 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And these were planted maybe 4 or 5 years ago as tiny little courts. So they're also very vigorous growers.
Coming on through the arch here, we have a lovely hedge of a newer variety of hydrangea arborescens that actually blooms green. That's why they call it Sublime. It's this nice limey green, and this color will stay. It'll deepen slightly, but this is the color you're gonna get. The arborescens hydrangeas we're showing you today are all zones 3 through 8. So they do have a nice range, especially in those colder zones. It's nice to be able to get those hydrangeas. This again, very much full sun. This is, well, the hedge actually faces north, but the sun's coming from that direction. And what a gorgeous pairing with this purple Weeping Ruby Falls redbud to have this nice chartreuse. What I love in particular about the Sublime hydrangea, even though it's more of a 5x5, right, Eric?
It sure is.
If you back up a little bit, look at how tidy of a hedge this is. It's very organized, very clean looking, and it doesn't ask much from us at all. When these are planted, we make sure to mulch them well with compost and prune them as necessary, but this will just continue blooming through the rest of the season.
And there are 5 of them here, and again, these were planted as courts. And these were planted in 2022 as courts. So what's this, their third full season?
This is their leap year, so they are already doing so well in early or late June, getting towards July. So they are absolutely showing off their best in their third year.
Hydrangeas the size of Invincibelle Spirit II or Invincibelle Sublime might not be the right size for everyone. So if you're looking for something a little smaller, here's a great choice called Invincibelle Wee White. And this is a dwarf Annabelle hydrangea. So it still blooms on new wood. It is hardy in zones 3 through 8. It comes out in these blush or green flower tones that'll get bright white. Look at the number of flowers on this grouping.
You can barely see the leaves.
There are 4 of them here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, planted as courts. These are the most established ones we have. These were planted probably back in 2019. So these are full size, full maturity, and they couldn't be happier here in full sun facing south. They do have drip underneath. They get fertilized with the compost that we use as mulch every spring, but they're really, really happy. And they max out at this height, which I would say is to my knees. So what's that, 2 feet, Christopher?
Yeah, I would say they're about like 2.5 feet.
But I can't believe the number of flowers. So if you're looking for a smaller, fail-proof hydrangea, Invincibelle Wee White.
The next variety of hydrangea we want to talk about is the Oakleaf or quercifolia type hydrangea. And you can see this is a very happy plant. The Oakleaf hydrangeas bloom on old wood. So these are a set it and forget it kind of plant. You really want to pay attention to the plant tag because you don't prune these ever. You want to put them in a place where they can just get their full size. In this case, We have been letting this grow here for probably 5 or 6 years. And every year we are rewarded with beautiful, gigantic panicle blooms. So you have that nice cone shape. You have sterile florets, which are the big flowers on the outside. And on the inside, all those little fuzzy things, that's the actual flower. These are just attracting the bees to there. This is the kind of plant that's going to come out with a white flower. And then eventually it's going to turn pink at the base and come all the way out. This particular one gets a nice deep pink. And the other thing that's so special about Oakleaf hydrangea is, in fact, the leaves. They look like oak tree leaves.
They sure do.
They're very thick and leathery. A bonus of this particular kind of hydrangea is the 4 seasons of interest. It comes out with this gorgeous flower. And then in the fall, you've got wonderful, dark, maroon, kind of leathery fall color. It's a really beautiful plant. In the wintertime, it has a cinnamon, almost peeling bark, and very cool habit. This plant in particular looks awesome all winter long. And then in spring, it comes back with these really cool green leaves.
Another variety of Oakleaf hydrangea is right here. This is called Gatsby Moon Oakleaf hydrangea. This one is on the north side of our house. Now, a lot of people think that hydrangeas prefer shade, but in our growing zone, zone 6, upstate New York, they don't prefer shade, they prefer more sun. But the Oakleaf is the most shade tolerant, and that's why we chose to put it here on the north side. But look at these gorgeous, full mop head blooms. I bet if this got more sun, they would be even bigger. Again, they're gonna start this limey white, this greenish white, and they'll transition to pink as the nights start to get cooler. That'll trigger that flower to start to turn. I just think they are a stunning shrub. But if something that gets 6 by 6 isn't for you, there is a brand new variety that we just planted this spring that stays a little bit smaller. So let's show that to you.
Up here behind our pondless waterfall is where we chose to plant this new Gatsby glow ball. All the same characteristics of 4 seasons of interest and beautiful blooms, but this is gonna stay around 3 foot by 3 foot, giving us a lovely little natural element at the top of the pondless waterfall. I noticed these leaves are slightly more serrated, so I'm excited to see this grow. Since it was from the nursery, the first year we're planting it, there's a chance that it was pruned for shape, and that's why we're not gonna get blooms this season, because again, these are old wood hydrangeas and you don't want to prune them or you're going to forgo your next season's flowers.
The next type of hydrangea we have flowering in our garden is a Hydrangea macrophylla. And that is a hydrangea that is hardy in zones 5 through 9 and blooms on old wood. We happen to have this cool new variety called Let's Dance Skyview that blooms on old wood and new wood, which you can see right now is just starting to flower. And this is the kind of hydrangea, unlike Hydrangea arborescens or Hydrangea quercifolia, that you can change the color of the bloom based on the pH of your soil. The more acidic your soil is, or the more aluminum sulfate that's in it, the bluer the flower will be. And the complete opposite, it will be more pink. But Christopher, we have a nice little variety of color happening on this one.
Ooh, do we?
Pinky purple happening over here, a little bluey purple happening over there.
Very nice.
This is a smaller bigleaf hydrangea that gets about 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. These were planted not last year, which was 2020, but these were planted in 2023 as 1 gallons. So can you believe how beautifully they've survived the winter here?
They did, and we do choose to cover them here in zone 6 because we have strong winds and we do have late frosts, which are going to nip the not so hardy buds on the macrophylla hydrangeas.
Now, full transparency, the first winter they were in the ground, we did not cover them and they died completely back to the ground. Last winter, we did cover them and the top part still kind of died off, but the bottom part stayed. So, you know, we're still experimenting with how to protect them through the winter. But what's amazing about Let's Dance Skyview is even though 2 winters in a row it's had dieback, they still look amazing.
I'm so impressed with this hydrangea. And one thing to keep in mind when you're looking at a proven winners hydrangea in particular, if blue is in the name, they're going to be easier to turn blue. And in this case, we did not do any acidifying this year. So seeing pink, blue and pink on that hydrangea, that is just the nature of what our soil is doing for us
It's
today.
really cool. We do use compost as mulch, and I think that really improves the soil over time, and maybe that has an effect on the color as well.
Here in upstate New York, we are about 3.5, 4 hours away from Cape Cod, which is known for the most beautiful blue hydrangeas in the world. We love them, and it's something we'd love to have in our garden. Below me here is Let's Dance Rhythmic Blue. These are 1-gallon specimens that we planted just a few months ago, and they're coming into flower very nicely. You can see that they have a lovely rich blue, a little bit of purple still sneaking in there, but our goal is going to be to add aluminum sulfate, which will lower the pH into that acid range, and continually do that several times throughout the season, because our goal is to get that really awesome blue. But this is a beautiful shrub that, again, reblooms. So if we do happen to have a late frost and it kills off those old wood buds, we're more likely to get flowers later in the season because of that reblooming quality.
I think I see a bud forming right now on some new wood right here.
So this will be interesting to see what color this comes, because if this is new to us from this season, it's going to be reacting to what's our soil is giving it, and then we'll get a little sense of what the pH is in that spot.
I bet it's going to be blue because of the soil that it was potted in and put in is still in the ground there.
Okay, well, one way or the other, we'll have blue hydrangeas.
Next year is when we'll really find out what color they're going to be. A truly foolproof macrophylla hydrangea is the Let's Dance Can Do. This hydrangea has extreme remontancy ability, and what that means is re-blooming and blooming on new growth. The other cool thing about Let's Dance Can Do is it sets flower buds at every leaf node. So that's why you see flowers all the way from the ground to the top. What makes it different from a traditional macrophylla is that it's hybridized with a serrata type, but it's also a lace cap variety. You can see that it has a flatter flower. So it doesn't have that big moppy look like a traditional big leaf hydrangea, but it does have big, gorgeous flowers. And for us, they are pink, which is no surprise, but we could try and add a little aluminum sulfate and try and manipulate that soil a little bit, but I don't know if it's worth it. I think the pink is really, really pretty.
I love it. This is my absolute favorite hydrangea.
3 to 4 feet tall and wide, hardy in zones 5 to 9, and great reblooming, great bud hardiness. I would highly recommend it.
The next family of hydrangeas we're going to talk about are the serrata hydrangeas, or mountain hydrangeas. The last family, the macrophylla, they grow on the shore area in Japan. And guess where you could find a serrata? In the mountains. Behind me is one of the 2 varieties that we love so much at this moment. This is Tuff Stuff Aha. It's from a series of Tuff Stuff mountain hydrangeas that do have some remontancy. They do rebloom. In fact, this one is known to rebloom quite prolifically. It ranges from pink to blue. As you can see, the newly planted ones, these came to us wanting to be pink, and that one wanted to be blue. Next season, they'll be totally different depending on the soil structure and what we choose to do to them. Tuff Stuff Aha is known for having big, giant florets, and again, reblooming very well. They're hardy in zones 5 through 9. And this is going to get about 3 by 3. So we'll have a nice little cluster here surrounded by these rocks. I'm interested to see what color they come back as next season.
I'm going to wager pink. What are you going to wager?
Probably pink. I would love to push a little bit of the aluminum sulfate in, not to make them blue, but to get a little depth to that pink, a little more lavender color.
If we want to do that, if we want to have that influence, now is the time we would do it as they're putting on this new growth, because this does bloom on old wood. They're forming those buds for next year right now. Right. So we'd want to make sure that now is when we start adding that aluminum sulfate and that soil acidifier. Coming in even more compact, but boasting way more flower power is Tuff Stuff Top Fun Hydrangea. This again is a mountain hydrangea, just like the Tuff Stuff Ahas Christopher just spoke about, but they've got even more reblooming ability. And Christopher, look at it's like stacked with not just flowers starting, but then it's got more buds, and then it's got new growth, which is going to put out even more flowers. So we get 3 rounds of blooms on this hydrangea, which makes it super incredible, super enjoyable. Now these get 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. This is a nice hedge of them. They're hardy in zones 5 through 9, much more cold resistant than the bigleaf hydrangea as far as bud hardiness goes. They have that lace cap flower with the sterile florets that attract the pollinators, and this can be maybe turned a little bit purple if we added soil acidifier, which we have. So you can see what happens when we try real hard. We don't have necessarily pink, but we've got, I don't know, what would you call that color? Mauve?
We got a bit of mauve, but Eric, actually, I'm gonna sneak right through. Let me get in here because I spotted some purple.
I can't believe that.
The acidifier did work in a few places, so maybe we just need to try a little bit extra. Something else I love about this hydrangea is that the actual flowers, the pollinating flowers, they start out this lime green color and they'll turn pink, but look at the center of each one of the sterile florets has this really pretty kind of honeydew color. I love this mountain hydrangea.
Christopher, you know what I just remembered?
What?
We purposely only applied aluminum sulfate to parts of the hydrangea because we really wanted that mixture of pink and purple.
Oh my gosh, you're
So you
right.
pointing out the purple just triggered that for me, because I remember we only did it on this second half of the hydrangea because we wanted to see if we could get a mix of color on them.
We did.
So I think it's working.
So now we'll get to see what happens on the far side when those bloom. Maybe we have even more purple.
Interesting.
How
So
exciting.
it's amazing. This is why you need to make videos of your garden so you can remember.
The last hydrangea variety that we want to talk about is the Panicle hydrangea. In zone 6, this is probably the hydrangea you're going to see the most common because it is gorgeous and big and billowing with these panicle or cone-shaped blooms. They bloom later in the season for us. So this Quickfire, known for being an early bloomer, is the best example we have of this great white color coming through. Quickfire is an older variety. This hydrangea's been here for probably 6 years. It's awesome because you cannot mess up the pruning. If it ever got so big we didn't know what to do with it, we could cut it to the ground and let it start fresh. But in this case, you see Quickfire has more of an open panicle, again having the sterile florets, and the actual pollinating happens on the inside of this hydrangea. This is one of the big ones. This is gonna get you to 6 by 6, as you can see. It's pretty close to that at this point now. These also are the kind of hydrangea that start white, and then they will begin transitioning to pink by blushing pink at the bottom and moving pink all the way up to the top. Love a panicle hydrangea. We have quite a few of them. Next to it is actually a hydrangea that has been one of my favorite hydrangeas forever. This is called Pinky Winky. You can see that it's more traditional, so it takes longer to flower. By the end of July, this is going to be upwards of an 18-inch panicle, and it gets the most beautiful ruby pink color. I adore this one. This also gets massive at 8 by 8.
An improved version of the Quickfire that Christopher was just speaking about is Quickfire Fab. It doesn't bloom quite as early as traditional Quickfire, but it blooms bigger and bolder, and the stems are very strong. Hardy in zones 3 through 9, it blooms on new wood, just like all panicle varieties. So even if deer come through and nibble on them, or we get a late summer frost, it's still gonna flower for you. This is a nice one. We have to pop a picture up on the screen for that because it's gonna be gorgeous. But let's go to our final Panicle hydrangea variety. If those are too big for you, like those 6 by 8 kinds we were just speaking about, this is tiny Quickfire. It gets about 1 to 2 feet tall and wide, kind of the same size as the wee white that we talked about earlier in the video. Look how adorable it is. It blooms on new wood, just like all panicle varieties. Hardy in zones 3 through 8 or 9, I believe. Full sun. These hydrangeas love full sun. Again, it'll start out this limey green, turn bright white, and then transition dark pink up to the top as the nights get cooler. I think this is an adorable variety, and you can tuck it in anywhere. And we have it right on the front edge of the border here, and I think it works really, really well. So general care when it comes to hydrangeas in our garden, we want to make sure that they have enough water to keep them happy. We don't want to plant them in wet soil. We want to keep them in well-drained soil, but having consistent moisture. So we do have drip irrigation set up underneath our hydrangeas. We try to avoid watering them from overhead, because if you do that consistently and the blooms are wet and dry, they'll brown out quickly. And that has happened to us in the past because we do have so much rain in our garden. Also, if you get big thunderstorms, you might find yourself having to stake the arborescence type. But the newer varieties we mentioned today, like Invincibelle Spirit II and Invincibelle Sublime and Wee White, they don't tend to need that because they've been bred to have stronger stem. The other thing to consider when choosing a hydrangea for your garden is to consider the ultimate size. Hydrangeas that bloom on new wood, like the Panicle variety or the arborescence variety, they can kind of be size controlled, but if you're gonna go with a variety that blooms on old wood, like the Oakleaf or the Macrophylla or the Serrata, you're gonna wanna look at that tag and consider planting it in a place where you can let it reach its full size without any pruning. Also, for our area in particular, and maybe yours as well, that west wind in the winter can be brutal and can desiccate branches and flower buds. So consider planting it in a place where it is protected from those things, like on the east side of your house or the east side of a fence. Remember, hydrangeas don't want to be soaking in water, and they don't want to be in the shade in our lower growing zones. They like a lot of sun, and they like nice, well-draining soil with steady moisture.
Thank you so much for joining us today as we share some top picks from our 5 favorite hydrangea varieties.
For more information on our garden, please visit growformegardening.com. Also, please make sure you click like and subscribe on this video. Again, I'm Eric.
And I'm Christopher.
And we're Grow For Me Gardening.
Thanks for growing with us.